The scene would have been laughable if it hadn't been so utterly pathetic. Two grown men were crawling across my lawn, hands and knees scraping the grass, each groan and clutch of the shins sounding like a scene from a bad slapstick film. One of them, a bulky fellow in a black polo, was openly sobbing like a kid caught stealing cookies. The other, leaner and sporting a buzz cut that had seen better days, probably thanks to my ram Carl, kept shouting at the top of his lungs, "He's got a ram! The crazy bastard has an attack ram!" I took a slow sip of my sweet tea, rocking back in my porch chair, and called out in what I hoped was my most helpful, neighborly tone. "Actually, Carl's a mountain ram, and you boys are trespassing." The skinny one tried to stand up, shot a wary glance at Carl pawing the dirt near the dock, and promptly returned to crawling. I couldn't resist adding, "Might want to pick up the pace. Carl's just getting started. My name's Mitchell Harper." And I'd spent almost 20 years scraping and saving every penny for this exact dream, a lakefront ranch in Pine Ridge Estates, 40 acres of pure serenity where the morning mist rises off the water like a painting brought to life. The real estate agent had sung praises about the exclusive community and its pristine landscape. Conveniently, she neglected to mention that the HOA had recently crowned Patricia Kendall as president, a woman whose personality made drill sergeants seem cuddly. Patricia had the warmth of a cactus soaked in vinegar and acted as though her HOA title granted her the powers of a minor. Dictator, I'm a simple man. 15 years spent as a rodeo medic patching up cowboys who thought they could wrestle bulls with bare hands, then a stint as a friar after my knees gave out. All I wanted was quiet, peace, and the company of my animals. My little ranch family consisted of 2 border collies, Buck and Daisy, 3 Nigerian dwarf goats who maintained the lawn better than any mower, and Carl. Carl was special. A 200-pound Rocky Mountain ram I'd rescued from a failed petting zoo. Despite his impressive horns and muscle-bound frame, Carl was as gentle as a lamb, pun very much intended. He loved chin scratches and followed me around like an oversized, furry shadow. Trouble, as it often does, appeared sooner than expected. 1 week after moving in, I found a note taped to a garden rake leaning against my mailbox. Purple ink, handwriting so sharp it seemed to cut the paper itself. "Mr. Harper," it began, oozing condescension, "it has come to our attention that you are harboring illegal livestock on your property. Section 3.1A of the Pine Ridge Estates Covenant clearly states ornamental pets only. Your goats and whatever that horned monstrosity is must be removed within 72 hours. Signed, Patricia Kendall, HOA President." I read it twice, laughed, crumpled it up, and tossed it in the burn barrel. Carl and the goats weren't going anywhere. This was agricultural land when I bought it, and my deed explicitly included livestock rights. Patricia could pound sand, but Patricia Kendall wasn't the type to be ignored. Over the next fortnight, her campaign against my ranch escalated like a tactical military operation. First came motion sensors, posts erected just beyond my property line, all aimed directly at my pasture. Then the letters began, a new complaint every other day. My goats bleeding classified as auditory assaults on community standards. Carl's morning stretches reported as displays of aggressive dominance. My border collie's instincts condemned as promoting organized animal gang activity. Her letters became increasingly ridiculous, citing phantom ordinances and referencing bylaws that existed only in her imagination. She even threatened to summon some ominous-sounding HOA Animal Compliance Division, a phrase that could have been lifted straight from a dystopian novel. I kept every single note in a file labeled Comedy Gold and went about my business. Carl seemed to sense the tension, often standing on the hill overlooking Patricia's house during his morning graze, just staring. I neither encouraged nor discouraged it. Then came that Friday, a day that would etch itself into memory. I'd been in town picking up feed and supplies, 3 hours tops. Pulling into the driveway, I immediately sensed something off. 2 men were inside my locked gate, wandering through my pasture in matching black polo shirts with laminated badges dangling from their necks. They looked like mall security guards who had somehow wandered into the wrong neighborhood. The heavier one brandished a pool noodle like it was a weapon, advancing on Carl with all the bravado of someone who had never met a ram in real life. The skinny one tried corralling my goats with a butterfly net, his panic palpable. I parked calmly, though my blood was boiling beneath the surface. "Afternoon, gentlemen," I called, my voice friendly, measured. "Mind telling me what you're doing on my property?" They spun toward me like kids caught red-handed. The heavy one puffed out his chest and flashed his badge. "Ha, security, sir. We're here on official business. Private Property Standards Enforcement, Level 2. I squinted at the badge. It looked like a souvenir from a mall kiosk, complete with a holographic star sticker. Interesting. I pulled out my phone. "And who exactly authorized you to enter my locked gate without permission?" The skinny one piped up, nasal voice grating like nails on a chalkboard. "Patricia Kendall, HOA President." That was the name the skinny one spat out, voice trembling. "These animals are violating community standards and need to be removed immediately," he declared, waving the butterfly net like it was a sword. "We're authorized to use necessary force," I almost laughed. Necessary force? Against Carl? With a pool noodle and a butterfly net? This was going to be educational. "Gentlemen," I said, starting to record on my phone, "you see those signs on my gate? The ones with the big red letters saying no trespassing? They're not decoration. You're committing criminal trespass right now, and I am fully within my rights to defend my property." The heavy one scoffed, raising his pool noodle again and stepping toward Carl, who had been peacefully grazing but now tilted his head, eyeing the approaching human with mild curiosity. "Come here. Sheep," the man said, jabbing the noodle in Carl's direction. "Time to go to a nice farm upstate." That's when I noticed the skinny one had activated a body camera, probably thinking it would shield them legally. It would, just not in the way they imagined. Carl's ears flicked back, his stance shifting. Anyone who knew rams would recognize the warning signs, but these two city boys had no clue. "You might want to step back," I offered helpfully. The heavy one ignored me and poked Carl again. That was all it took. Carl snorted, lowered his massive head, and charged with a fluidity that would make an NFL linebacker jealous. 200 pounds of muscle collided with a soft human shin at roughly 15 miles per hour. The scream that followed was so high-pitched it could have registered on seismographs. The man flew backward, landing squarely in the wheelbarrow of fresh compost I'd been meaning to spread. The stench that erupted was a mixture of rotted vegetables, chicken manure, and a month of decomposition. The skinny one froze, eyes wide, clutching his butterfly net as Carl did a little victory prance, now turning his attention to the remaining intruder. "He's smiling at me," the skinny man whimpered, body camera capturing every terrified word. Carl wasn't smiling. Rams don't smile. But he was very much interested in this new toy wandering into his domain. The skinny man tried to flee, but Carl went into what I call his pinball special, catching him right in the back of the knees. The man cartwheeled through the air, landing in my decorative bird bath with a splash that sounded like a bag of wet cement hitting concrete. His body camera was still recording as he flailed, screaming, "Why does it have knees like hammers? What kind of demon sheep is this?" I calmly recorded everything, making sure to capture the HOA badges, the no trespassing signs, and the two men scrambling across my lawn. Carl, satisfied, returned to grazing as if nothing had happened. The goats, who had been watching the entire spectacle, seemed slightly disappointed it ended so quickly. And that's when the crawl began, the two of them moving like injured crabs, whimpering and groaning, leaving trails of compost and bird bath water across my freshly cut grass. I kept recording and dialed 911 from my porch. 911, what's your emergency?" the dispatcher asked. "Hi there," I said, calm as can be. "Two men illegally entered my property, threatened my livestock, and are now crawling across the lawn after my ram defended himself. I'd like to file a trespassing complaint." There was a pause. "Did you say your ram defended himself?" "Yes, ma'am. They entered my locked gate without permission, claimed to be HOA security, and tried to take my animals." Carl intervened. "Both are conscious and mobile, just moving very slowly and making a lot of noise." By the time Sheriff Davidson arrived with two deputies, the so-called security guards had made it to their van, attempting to figure out how to drive on potentially fractured shins. The sheriff, who'd known me since my days shoeing horses for the department, took one look and shook his head. Mitchell, what in the hell happened here? I handed him my phone, video cued and ready. These two broke into my property, claiming to be HOA security. Watch this! The sheriff watched as the heavy one called Carl a sheep and poked him with a pool noodle. He snorted. That's a ram, you idiot, he muttered. When the video ended, he handed my phone back and approached the van where the two men sat. Doors open, still moaning dramatically. Gentlemen, I need to see identification, the sheriff said. They produced driver's licenses and their mall kiosk badges. He examined the badges with the same expression someone might give a child's crayon drawing of a police badge. These aren't real security credentials, he said flatly. Impersonating security personnel is a crime. Combine that with criminal trespass and attempted theft of livestock, and you're in a heap of trouble. The skinny one started babbling, body camera still recording. Patricia Kendall hired us. She said we had full authority. HOA rules supersede property law. That ram was probably tame. The sheriff raised an eyebrow. Patricia Kendall, the HOA president, personally hired you? Both nodded vigorously, wincing as movement jarred their bruised legs. One deputy took statements while the other called an ambulance to check injuries. Nothing broken, just spectacular bruising and wounded pride. As they were treated, I heard the heavy one mutter to his partner. She said it would be easy money. Just grab the horned one and take it to her cousin's farm. 20 minutes tops. The sheriff issued citations for criminal trespass and impersonating security personnel, then turned to me. Mitchell, you'll need to come by the station tomorrow to file a formal complaint. I'd also suggest getting a lawyer. This Patricia Kendall had clearly overstepped, and civil liability was staring her in the face. I nodded slowly, already thinking about which lawyer I needed to call. Oh, I'd be pursuing this sheriff too. Those two clowns were just the muscle. I wanted the brain behind the whole operation. The next few days were a blur of legal maneuvering. My lawyer, Janet Morrison, could barely contain her excitement when I showed her the video and the stack of Patricia's threatening letters. This is a slam dunk, she said, adjusting her glasses. Criminal conspiracy, harassment, trespass by proxy, and false representation of authority. The HOA's insurance will have a heart attack when they see this. She fired off a cease and desist letter to Patricia and the board that could have peeled paint off the walls. In the course of her investigation, she uncovered something particularly damning. The two security guards were Patricia's nephew, Bradle Y., and his roommate, Thomas. She had paid them $200 each to remove the animals and personally made their badges at a mall print shop. Thomas's body camera footage was especially incriminating. Patricia's voice clearly audible on speakerphone in the van before they entered my property. Just grab the horned one. He's probably tame. If the owner gives you trouble, tell him you'll have him arrested for interfering with HOA enforcement. The emergency HOA board meeting was scheduled for the following Thursday evening. News of the incident had spread through Pine Ridge Estates like wildfire, and most of the neighbors were decidedly not on Patricia's side. Several stopped by beforehand to share stories of her overreach. Apparently, I wasn't her first target, just the first one with a ram willing to fight back. The community center was packed. I arrived with my lawyer and a TV cart carrying a large screen and a laptop. Patricia sat at the board table looking like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. Her usually immaculate hair was slightly disheveled, and the trademark sneer was replaced by something closer to fear. Almost. The board president, an elderly man named Harold Summers, called the meeting to order. We're here to address the incident at the Harper property and allegations of misconduct by our HOA president. Patricia immediately rose. This is ridiculous. I was enforcing community standards. That man, she pointed at me with a perfectly manicured nail, is harboring dangerous animals that threaten our property values. I raised my hand calmly. Mr. Summers, may I present some evidence? He nodded, and I wheeled the TV cart to the front. The room went silent as I played the video. Every gasp, every whisper, every shocked murmur fueled my satisfaction. When Carl launched Bradley into the compost wheelbarrow, someone even applauded. But the real kicker was Thomas's body camera footage, Patricia's instructions to trespass, her admission about making the fake badges, her assurance that HOA rules superseded law, and her comment about Carl being probably tame. When the video ended, The room erupted in angry voices. "I was consulting with lawyers," Patricia protested. "Everything was legal and above board," she continued defensively. Another board member, Susan Chen, stood. "Patricia, did you really hire your nephew and his friend to illegally enter Mr. Harper's property?" Patricia's face went from red to purple to a frightening shade of white. I was protecting community standards. Those animals don't belong here," she stammered. My lawyer stood, voice firm and commanding. "Mr. Harper's deed includes full agricultural and livestock rights. He's violated no laws or legitimate HOA rules. However, your president has committed multiple crimes and exposed this HOA to significant liability." She paused. "The insurance company has already indicated they will not cover damages resulting from criminal acts by board members." Harold Summers looked 10 years older in 10 minutes. "Patricia, these are serious allegations." "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Patricia rose, trying to regain some semblance of her authoritarian posture. "I did what I thought was best for this community. Property values are at stake. We can't have farms here. Chickens? Pigs? Where does it end?" "It ends with you respecting property rights and the law," Harold said firmly. "I call for a vote of no confidence in Patricia Kendall as HOA president." The vote was swift and decisive, 5-1, with only Patricia voting for herself. But Harold wasn't done. "I also move to ban Patricia from any future HOA board positions and to cooperate fully with any legal proceedings against her." Another 5-1 vote. Patricia's reign of terror was officially over. As the meeting concluded, Harold approached me. "Mr. Harper, on behalf of Pine Ridge Estates HOA, I sincerely apologize for this incident. We will review all of Patricia's previous actions and complaints." I shook his hand. "I appreciate that, Harold. I just want to live in peace with my animals." Outside the community center, a process server, strategically stationed by my lawyer, served Patricia with legal papers. Criminal charges included conspiracy to commit trespass, filing false reports, and harassment. Civil lawsuits would follow, but my lawyer assured me Patricia's homeowners insurance wouldn't cover intentional criminal acts. The final scene was almost poetic. Patricia, clutching the papers, her expression cycling through emotions like a broken traffic light, was approached by a public works worker with bolt cutters. Her custom mailbox, a grotesque judge's gavel she had insisted on installing at the community center, was ceremonially removed. The metallic snap of the cutters echoed her fall from power, and the best part? 3 weeks later, at her criminal sentencing, the judge, clearly unimpressed by her "I was protecting property values" defense, sentenced her to 18 months probation, 200 hours of community service with animal welfare organizations, and a $10,000 fine. As the gavels came down, Patricia's carefully maintained facade shattered. $10,000? She shrieked, voice breaking. "For trying to maintain standards? This is an injustice." The judge's hammer came down again with finality. And Patricia Kendall, former HOA president, current criminal defendant, was left sputtering about property values and ornamental pets, thoroughly humiliated and defeated.